everybody. Welcome to the Midnight Brightcast, episode number 15. I am your co-host, Josh, sitting alongside Patrick.
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
And our two missing partners tonight, Greg and Tom. They are gone doing other things. So it's it's going to be the two people tonight.
They're whistling out on us is what they're doing.
You've dealt with this before, just two people, and you know how it goes. So
it's usually a train wreck, right?
Yeah, stick with us. I promise. If nothing else, it'll be an entertaining train wreck. So,
I think the last time it was just you and I. Neither of us could speak, read, talk, or formate any type of idea whatsoever.
It was rough. It was a rough go. But if you listen to that podcast, then I'm sure you got a nice little laugh out of it. And now we're here doing it again. So
because we are gluttons for punishment.
So tonight it's gonna be probably it'll be a quick fire, I promise. So just stick with us for the 40 minutes that we might do.
If we're lucky.
If we're lucky.
Right.
And then you can move on to what other casting of potting that you listen to. I have my notes of the things that I've watched this week. I'm sure Patrick has a couple things that he's smashed.
You know,
maybe.
It's the things that I've been watching is what we've been doing with our 80s challenge here.
Yep,
and
cheated.
For those of you who don't know what that is, last year we challenged ourselves to watch 31 horror films in the month of October.
Yeah, which we're doing again this year.
Which we are doing again this year. But then I think we were challenged. We are challenged. But we challenged ourselves, and I don't know if it was did you guys do this challenge on your own? Or, I mean, did you come up with it on your own?
The 80s challenge?
Yeah.
I think Greg has just this weird infatuation with 80s movies.
Well, I love 80s movies.
He did an excuse to watch a bunch, and I am also a huge fan of the 80s and the movies of the 80s. So I was like, hell yeah, Greg, let's do that. So Greg came up with the 80s movies challenge. And I, so far, I'm pretty happy he did. So.
Yeah. I'm probably the furthest.
You're not that
back.
far behind.
I think I just posted one today. It's number 7.
Yeah.
So I am about 7 movies behind. 6 movies behind.
3. So
okay.
Yeah, 3.
And maybe I'm doing better than Tom though. I don't know because you're at number 10.
Yeah, I hit 10 last night.
And then Greg's at 7.
I think Greg may have hit 8. He posted The Great Muppet Caper yesterday, which I don't see on the feed, but I know he did.
Yeah, I don't see that on the feed. I see the last one he posted was European Vacation.
Yeah, Great Muppet Caper, I know he posted.
I'm trying to see the last one Tom did.
So
maybe I'm ahead of Tom.
I think you're ahead of Tom. I know you're definitely ahead of Elizabeth and Emily.
Okay.
I think the one movie that Elizabeth might watch during this 80s challenge is the final movie that we're watching.
Well, she has to. We're going to force her to.
I'm going to force her to watch the Breakfast Club
exactly.
because she's never seen it before. So she will be forced to watch the
Breakfast Club.
Yeah. So, and I've been trying, but she's working crazy hours, so she doesn't have time to watch movies.
So in your 80s movies, then, if we hit this whole, what have you been watching? I mean, do we want to cover that? Do we want to? Have you watched something besides the 80s marathon?
I have. So I cheated. I will be very honest. I cheated because I was sitting at home and we're doing this 80s movie thing, and I also have to watch horror for the podcast. And the challenge for myself, which I've totally failed on, is I don't want to watch any 80s horror. I want to stick with just 80s movies that's not horror related because I'm trying to save the horror films for October.
Right, but we did have an exception for that, which was tonight's movie.
Yes.
Because we wanted something from the 80s because because we thought we'd knock one out at the same time.
So I totally I was like, fuck it. I cheated and I watched a bunch of 80s horror this week because I had to watch 80s movies and I had to watch horror stuff for the podcast. So I was like, I'm just going to multitask. You can call it cheating. I call it multitasking. So I watched a bunch of 80s horror this week. That I can throw out there. I mean, do you have anything that you watched, Patrick, that whether it be 80s horror or just regular horror or no?
Well, for the 80s challenge, I'm doing something a little bit different than the other guys are doing.
I'm doing a real 80s challenge
I'm doing a real 80s challenge in the sense of I'm watching 80s movies that I had never seen before.
Yeah.
And some of them are stinkers, some of them are really good ones, because, you know, there's some 80s movies that I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I haven't seen. So those are going to come out over the course of this month, with my comrades here realizing how much of a doofus I am and not seeing some of these movies. Like, it kind of shocked you that I'd never seen Uncle Buck.
That really,
before.
like, that floored me. I was like, what, Patrick? You've never seen Uncle Buck, which is like the second greatest John Candy film ever?
Right. And I felt it really showed his acting chops really, really well.
And it's early Macaulay Culkin.
Right. Right, because I think that was before. Obviously, it was before Home Alone,
Yes, before
in
Home
which
Alone, yeah.
John Candy's in that as well.
Yeah. Is he in Home Alone? Oh yeah. He's in the truck.
He's in the truck with the
musician.
polka group. You know, but there's a couple other things like After Hours, Martin Scorsese film.
I've never seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really good. And then, you know, like I said, I saw some stinkers on there, like Beastmaster.
Oh, I think I saw that. I've been talking a lot about in the 80s and kind of early 90s, there's a really popular show on, it was Channel 27 in Lincoln, USA Up All Night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a big fan of that show. It was Gilbert Godfrey and Rhonda something or other. This big blonde bimbo looking girl. But she was a character. Gilbert Godfrey is just Gilbert Godfrey.
Insane. Right.
And I'm pretty sure Beastmaster was another one of those movies that played on that channel, like late night. It's like the movies would start at like midnight. I'm pretty sure that played on there as well. So I think I've seen Beastmaster. Unfortunately,
it was bad. It was bad. Like I said, you know, I kept wanting Rip Torn to just say, "If you can dodge a beast, you can dodge them all."
yeah. So. But yeah, I got some non-80s horror on here also that I snuck in because I am a recent subscriber to Amazon Prime. And they have, I cannot wait till October now. Like last October for our challenge, I failed hard because I think I only watched like 15 movies. And you guys smashed it.
But we were limited with Netflix because they had Netflix when it comes to horror.
Rough.
It's rough.
It's rough.
If it's not mainstream, it's tough to find anything.
So Amazon Prime, and I found even more last night. Amazon Prime is like going to be my go-to in October for the horror challenge.
Okay, what's the cost of Amazon Prime?
It's like $8
a month. That's it.
Yeah,
I thought it was more than that.
No,
okay.
It's like you don't get. I mean, it's not. It's just streaming, like no movies.
Oh,
in the mail
okay.
Or whatever. But they have so much stuff on there that. Who cares if they send you shit in the mail? Just stream it. I mean, that's all I do for Netflix and Hulu anyways, is stream.
Yeah. Well, and do you get the 2-day shipping and stuff like that
I don't do any
well?
Of that.
You just do the movies and that's
streaming.
it. Okay.
That's it. I did the Netflix 2 days in the mail thing for a while, and I started to realize I'd hold on to a movie for like a month and not even watch it.
Oh, I've got one sitting in my bag that's been there for at least 6 months because I keep forgetting to send it back.
So I was like, I'm paying extra
money
to not even watch the movie that they send me, and then I eventually send it back and they send me a new one that I don't watch. So I was like, I'm gonna get rid of that. I'll just stream shit because there's plenty of stuff too. Between 3 streaming whatever, that's plenty of content.
Because you're on Netflix, Netflix, Hulu,
and now
Prime. Amazon Prime. Yeah. Okay.
And I was on Shudder for a while, but I had to watch movies from Shudder on my phone, and I just can't. I can't do it.
Because that's app based, or
you can get Shudder on your. I don't have the kind of TV that you can download that app on.
Right. So but if you got like a Roku or something like that,
Shudder comes with all that now.
All right.
And there's great stuff on there. There's a ton of cool stuff on Shudder, so I would not like bash it or whatever. I just couldn't watch movies on my phone.
Right.
It was tough.
Unlike somebody else we know that that's pretty much what he does all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can watch movies on my phone at work. I just don't want to do it at home. So anyway, I did watch some movies that were not 80s related. Are we going to be able to even go round robin? Do you have enough to go round robin?
For what?
For what we've been watching?
Sure.
Do you want to start, or you want me to start?
I've got one. Other than the 80s, I have one thing that I've watched other than the 80s stuff.
Well, I'll just start listing off shit that I watched real quick.
Go ahead.
And I'll just make it really fast because, again, we don't have 2 people, and the round robin seems to be working a lot better than what we've been doing. But so 80s related, I watched American Werewolf in London, which I haven't watched in a really long time. In fact, I wasn't sure when I watched that if I had actually seen that movie all the way through or if I had just watched, little bits at a time. It was great. I was surprised. I was like, I was kind of hesitant going into it, but I was like, I'm gonna suck it up. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. And I was at work, so it was okay because it gave me something to do. Great flick. That transformation scene is still like one of the it's just
for when it was made.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Rick Baker, I think, did the effects for
Couldn't tell you.
American Werewolf in London. So I watched American Werewolf in London, which is a nice way to kick off my 80s horror week. I watched a movie, and this isn't horror, but I don't care. I watched Teen Wolf 2, which I remember loving when I was a kid. Like, I don't know why, but the Teen Wolf movies, I was just a huge fan of. And who didn't want to be like a teenage werewolf?
Right.
It's like really good at athletics.
Now, how did that stand up to the first one?
Bad.
With Michael J. Fox.
Really bad.
Okay.
Jason Bateman's in it. I'm pretty sure it's like...
I'd love Jason Bateman, but he's very young in that.
Yeah, I think it's like it's really early Jason Bateman. Teen Wolf, with Michael J. Fox is like classic. It's great. It's, it's a fun little movie. Teen Wolf 2 is basically the same story, only he's a boxer instead of a basketball player.
Okay. So I don't have to see that one then.
No,
All
you
right.
can probably skip Teen Wolf 2 at this
All right.
point. If you have not seen it when you were a child, there's no
I
reason
would
to
really
watch
no
it
way
as an adult.
appreciate it as an adult.
So I watched that. I watched Return of the Living Dead, which again was one of those USA Up All Night movies that I watched when I was a kid that I probably shouldn't have, but I did anyway. I don't know, like my dad let me watch weird shit when I was a kid, but I did, and it's really like cheesy. It's super cheesy. It's like, all the kids in there are like punk rock. Linnea Quigley's in it. That's all I'm gonna say. And that's like, she was like in Night of the Demons. She was in other movies in like the 80s and 90s that I was a fan of. But she is, I think, the only one that came out of that movie that was part of the punk teen kids that really did much more. The zombies ran in that movie, so take that in for what it's worth, because we just talked about this last
about
week
him not wanting to have running zombies.
And the effects are great, but the zombies like moved fast and they ran in that movie, and I had forgotten about that. So that took me back to our last podcast when I was like, everything's moving fast. These guys move fast. So there's that. And then 80s related, I watched a movie on Amazon Prime called Pitchfork, indie film. I couldn't find the cost, because when I watch these indie films now, I IMDb them because I want to know the budget.
Sure.
Because when we do these indie films, we have like no money.
Budget.
So I was like, okay, what does a movie with a budget have? And I couldn't find a budget. They didn't list it. But I know that movie had money, not because from watching it I could tell, but I know just from following along that movie being made, I know that movie had a budget. And it really doesn't look like, if you go and watch some of the stuff like horror films made in Nebraska and go, this is how much they had, it really like matches up. Like, there's no budget filmmakers that are making movies that good with a decent budget.
Right.
So that being said, it's not great, but I try not to trash on indie horror movies, not only because we make them, but because that's somebody's baby, and that's somebody who took however much time it took them to make that movie, not getting paid for it,
with whatever
working
resources
a
they
job
had
while they're doing it, and whatever else problems they had making that movie. That's for any indie horror or any indie filmmaker in general. You can't trash on those movies because you're going to spot the problems, and they have those problems because they either had a very limited budget or they have 900 other things to do on top of making that movie. So
right, and it's hard to trash on them as well because we experience those issues as well. It's like yes, you see the issue, but you also understand, well, you had no money. Yeah. I mean, you had no resources, you had none of the other things. Trash on big budget movies all you want when they make stupid mistakes.
Exactly.
Because they should know better. That's why they hire people for those things. But
yeah.
yes, we are much more lenient on.
They did
indies.
Michael Myers out the villain in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's called Pitchfork because he has a pitchfork. Literally, it's like razor wired to his arm.
Oh.
And he wears a funky little like wolf mask thing. And he's the villain until the end of the movie when all of a sudden his problem is explained and where he comes from. Like, comes from like a broken, fucked up home.
I would say that his problem was he had a pitchfork razor wired to his arm.
That's probably part of it too.
Yeah.
But they do this sympathy thing with him, this Michael Myers thing with him, where you feel bad for him all of a sudden at the end because now you know why.
Yeah. What was the name of that again?
It's called Pitchfork.
Pitchfork.
It's definitely worth the watch.
Okay.
Again, streaming on Amazon Prime. It's quick. It's like an hour and a half, whatever, maybe a little shorter. Quick watch. And then the other movie, real quick, I watched Purge Election Day, which this is old. It came out.
What was last year?
Was it just last year?
Yeah. Because it's on my list of Halloween movies. Because I'm looking at movies in 2016 that I've missed.
Okay, so you haven't seen this?
I have not seen it. So I mean, you're not giving away anything.
I wasn't going to give away anything anyway. It is by far my favorite Purge movie.
Really?
I didn't. Now I got to say I didn't get through the second one because I was bored.
Mm-hmm.
But Purge Election Day. Here's why I didn't like the first Purge, because was it Ethan Hawke that's in that movie?
Yes.
I don't like celebrities in
those
horror films,
movies, right?
Which I've already touched on. Purge Election Day is my favorite of the three, and I think they're making a fourth now. I feel like they're making. Well, I don't want to say too much, so I feel like they're making a prequel out of the fourth one.
All right,
and they're explaining the Purge and how it kind of came to be,
around.
And it ties in with the third one.
Okay.
So anyway, the Purge Election Day is great.
Yeah, that's on my list of October movies.
Yeah.
For me. So, yeah, I mentioned a couple of the '80s movies that I'd been watching. It started with the Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
You brave soul.
And I'd always seen this like sitting on a shelf because I remember the box cover and everything else. And so I said, oh, let's go ahead and watch this. And I mean, it's got A-list actors in that movie, but it's like a B movie, though, B-rated movie. So I found that was really interesting. So I've gone the gamut so far in my, 7 movies that I said. So I'm, ranging from that and Beastmaster to Scorsese movies. The King of Comedy was one that I always wanted to watch. And, with the De Niro and Jerry Lewis.
Okay.
In this beautiful satire. So I am, watching some things, and I know Tom's going to give me crap because today I just posted Hannah and her sisters. Here's an Academy Award winning movie.
Oh, really?
With and it's Woody Allen movie, and these are things I probably should have seen before, but I've got a couple other Woody Allen movies on my list because I've never seen Crimes and Misdemeanors, which is a really big movie for him. So as long as I've got some time to do these, I don't know that I'm going to hit the full 30 or whatever.
I'm not quite sure any of us are. At this point, I have to watch 2 movies a day right now. To
even catch up. And, I'm busy editing and work and other things. So I don't know that I'm going to complete this challenge. And quite frankly, that may be okay because I don't know if I want to burn myself out by the time we get to the horror movies because I'd rather spend my time enjoying those. Because I can watch these 80s movies on my own and that type of thing. So, but hey, I did go see a movie today.
I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, and I'm seeing it Wednesday. But go ahead, throw it out.
Annabelle Creation?
Yeah, I'm seeing it Wednesday. I want to talk about it. Too.
I will say I was entertained.
Okay.
I will say there was some really, really cool stuff in this.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say because you're going to see it.
Yeah.
But I did go see it. I think it's a nice addition to the Annabelle series, to the Conjuring series. It was nice to, see one of these without the Warrens being involved with it.
Yeah. Were they in Annabelle? Because they set up Annabelle, right? Did they set that up in the first Annabelle movie? Were they in that?
Were they in Annabelle? They were in Annabelle, weren't they?
I think they're in that very beginning scene, right? Where the two girls are living in the apartment and the Annabelle doll's in there. They're in that scene, right? That's it, I think. Okay.
So, but I think it's, like I said, I think it's a nice addition to it. There's a couple things I would be critical of, and we'll be interested in hearing your thoughts when we talk about it next.
Yeah, we'll hit on that on the next podcast.
Because you'll throw it out as what you've been watching.
Yeah, we go back and forth.
No, there's some really good tension building scenes. There's a couple things that I think they handled really nicely, but like I said, I've got a couple of criticisms that I want to see if you felt the same way about it. I just got to say, kid actors are getting so good nowadays. There's a couple main young ladies in this show, and one of them just knocked it out of the park. She was just amazing, just absolutely amazing. Cool. So I think you'll enjoy it. But I know you're going to be looking at it as a studio horror film as well. So
yeah, I'm mad now because I was going to go see it on Friday night and I was late, and I won't go to a movie late. Right. I refuse to show up. Like, the movie starts at 10:10. I won't walk in at 10:11. I just won't do it.
Why is that?
I'm
curious.
First of all, sometimes, and this can sound really stupid, and I'm sorry to burn a couple extra minutes on the podcast. So, I don't like missing previews.
Okay.
I just don't like missing previews. And on a movie that I'm sure was not full on Friday night, I'm sure there was not a full crowd on Friday night, but I don't like to be the guy crawling over 20 people to find a seat or walking in. Like, I feel like walking is like, it's like walking into class late where everybody's staring at you and you're the asshole for like showing up late, and everybody else was there on time. They already got their stuff and they got seated before the movie started, and you're the jerk off that's walking in going, excuse me, pardon me, excuse me, dropping my popcorn and my shit all over you because I decided in the last minute that I wanted to go to a movie. So, and I just learned, like, hearing people talk about it, that is kind of a respect thing. Like, if you're going to go to something like that where there's a big crowd of people, just be on time. My wife makes me late for movies all the time, and I yell at her because I'm like, don't make me walk into that movie late. Don't do it.
For me, it's if it's general seating, I'm there a half hour before because I hate getting stuck, 2 feet away from the screen.
Yeah.
But now that we've got this leisure lounge seating and stuff that, you're guaranteed your spot. Everything else. I love trailers. I do myself, but there are times where it's like, if I'm a couple minutes late, I'm okay with it because my seat is guaranteed. No one's taking it away from me. If I miss a couple of trailers, so be it. But no, I understand and respect your point.
Now, going back to that, if real quick, I'm the asshole that will buy a seat and just be like, I don't fucking care about what it says. I'm supposed to sit here. I just picked that seat because you made me pick a seat. I'll sit wherever the fuck I want to. And then I'll just go in there.
When you go into a theater that's half empty anyway.
Yeah, I'll just be like, I'm taking that one, and then I'll sit somewhere else because I'm that guy. Whatever. We'll see. If somebody comes and says, "Hey, I bought that seat," sometimes I'll be like, I will move.
But sometimes the diagrams when you're picking your chair are not accurate. And you think you're smack dab in the middle of that theater, and you get in there and you're like 10 feet to the left. That bothers me for some reason.
Yeah, I will just move.
Yeah,
but like that, I meant to sit there, so you move. Anyway, that's my.
And then in addition, because I had said I was going to point this out. They had a trailer.
Is it a trailer or is it the first like?
It's like an entire
3 minutes.
It's an entire 3 maybe plus minutes of it.
Are they gonna keep doing that, or was that an opening night thing?
I don't know.
If I miss it, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's the Georgie scene, right?
It's Georgie talking into the sewer.
Yeah. God damn it! They better keep showing it.
Oh, it was
September 8th. And I think that's it. If we can put it together, if we can do it on like a September 10th as like a Sunday, if we can like get a group. We did this for a movie called The Gallows, where we got a group together and we went and saw The Gallows, and then immediately afterwards we went and podcasted.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
So if we can figure out how to do that for it, we'll drag Greg down here, throw him in the clown theater, and make him watch it, because that's the guy that, including, well, and I do this when I watch horror movies with my wife too, but like I love to people watch.
Yeah.
When I watch movies with people that I know are fucking terrified of what's going on the screen, I will watch them for the reactions, and I will play on that. And come the podcast, I will prey on those people like crazy.
Well, you've got me on almost any jump scare that there is. If it's a loud noises for some reason just set me off. I mean, I could watch somebody get their head hacked off, and that doesn't bother me at all in any way, shape, or form. But loud noises,
those jump scares,
yeah, it doesn't even have to be a jump scare. It could just be a loud noise in a movie, regardless, and I would jump.
Yeah,
I don't know what the hell it is about me. So
if we can plan that,
that'd be awesome.
That'd be cool.
I mean, that's just up to the other guys who don't happen to be here right now.
Jerks.
They're jerks. I hate them so much.
Stupid people that have other things to do.
Yeah.
Jeez. So we should talk about our movie for the night.
Yes, and I probably should apologize. And Tom and Greg probably, maybe it's good that you weren't here tonight. Because,
I wonder if they watched it.
I know Tom didn't, most likely, because he knew he wouldn't be here.
Okay, yeah.
And the Greg, we must have missed you talking about being somewhere else tonight. So, but I would assume that neither of them watched it and just let us suffer.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I'm apologizing is because since I'm stuck in this, let's do 80s movies that I've never seen before. So then trying to find a decent 1980s horror film that none of us have seen was a challenge.
Yeah.
And so I went on this list of films from the 80s, horror films from the 80s, and this one actually scored really well on both IMDb and on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
And we watched it.
Yeah. And let me just point out before we start, like, I did not hate this movie. I didn't.
I did not hate it.
Yeah.
Let's tell everybody what it is.
Let's go.
Okay, it's a 1987 movie called Opera.
It's Dario Argento.
Yep. So it was basically an Italian style horror film.
Yes.
And I'm probably pronouncing it incorrectly because I looked it up, but I didn't look at how to pronounce it. They referred to it as a Giallo.
It's Giallo, yeah. It's Giallo, yep.
Film, which is basically Italian Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
And for a little bit of history or trivia, a little bit of trivia, Giallo is yellow in Italian.
Which I did not know.
And Pulp Fiction books in Italy were printed on yellow covers.
See, you joined the podcast and you learned something new. If you didn't know that.
So I'm just going to give you the quick skinny on Opera. It's pretty basic. A young operetta is stalked by a deranged fan bent on killing the people associated with her to claim her for himself. On IMDb, 7.1 stars. On Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter gave it 85%, and the audience score was 79%. So it ranked well on both of those sites. Mm-hmm. Would you give it those score though?
I don't know if I would score it that high. Dario Argento is somebody that I've dodged for a long time. I have friends that love what he does, that love the Giallo style, that are just super into that. And I've talked about his films a lot. Not my cup of tea. And that's the only reason why I wouldn't score it as high as everyone else, because I feel like you have to be into that style of film to appreciate that style of film. Now, had this been a film that was shot today differently, like in modern times, whatever, I may have been, because story-wise, that movie wasn't bad. Now, I will say, when I was watching it, the first 15 minutes, I was like, well, this is just the fucking Phantom of the Opera.
Right. That's exactly what I was thinking.
What it is.
Yeah.
It's just the Phantom of the Opera with without, like, I was gonna say without the opera, but the opera it's just the Phantom of the Opera. But then as everything kind of starts to take a turn and everything, it drifts away from that idea.
Yep.
I thought it was too long. It's an hour and 50 minutes. There's a point in the movie where I thought that's where it could have ended. It was about 20 minutes extra of stuff. But there's a point in the movie where she's locked herself in her like apartment, and they get the inspectors like confused, like, is he in the apartment or is he out of the apartment?
Which that scene had one of the best kill shots I've seen.
Yeah, the eyes. Yeah. He's obsessed with eyes in this movie.
Oh yeah,
it's all eyes. It's all poking your eyes out, shooting your eyes out. It's all with the most horrific part in this movie wasn't even a death when he puts those things under her eyes so she can't like close them.
Tapes the needles right.
I was like, that is just the worst thing. Kill me before you do that. That's the worst thing ever. But he's really obsessed with eyes, and I don't know if I'm not super like schooled on Dario Argento, so I don't know if that's something he does in his other films. I've never seen Suspiria. I've never seen Inferno. I do want to change that because I feel like I should go back and watch those movies because they are so highly talked about. Opera might not have been as big as those other two films that I just mentioned.
I'm looking at his list of stuff here, and I don't know that I've heard of these.
Yeah, Suspiria is the only Dario Argento movie that I know.
Right.
And I haven't seen that. So
he actually did one called Giallo. He did a Giallo film called Giallo.
He did Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
He did do Phantom of the Opera.
The gory remake is what they're saying here.
Demons and the Demons I had heard of. I knew that movie. But yeah, Suspiria and Inferno are the two big ones that I know he did. But again, I have not seen them, and I will add those to my list for the month of October. I will change that. But anyway, the apartment where he's chasing her through the apartment, and she kills the real inspector, and then they have this, like, I was like, that's setting up the final, like, here we go. This is the final scene that they're going to end this whole thing. And then she escapes, and it goes on for another 20 minutes. And I'm like, nope, it could have ended right there. Yeah. Let's wrap this shit up. And they didn't.
No, it went on for another 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. And then the whole, he ties her to the chair at the very end of the whole movie and burns the room
Sets
down
the room
or
on
whatever.
fire, yep.
And I'm like, okay, that's the end of it. And then they do a nice little, like, she gets away, and now she's making a movie with the guy that she loves or whatever. They're out this beautiful, like, countryside in the mountains and everything. Everything's happy, and the birds are chirping. And then it's like, oh, by the way, that guy didn't really die.
He's running after you.
He's like, oh, we don't have to start this movie over again.
Yeah.
We're done.
Yeah, no, and it didn't add anything to it.
Not at all.
Not
at all.
But I do got to say, it has one of the best kill shots I've ever seen. And I just going to describe it here. There's supposedly an inspector outside the doorway, and her friend is trying to look through the peephole to see who it is. And the guy just puts the gun right up to the keyhole or to the peephole and shoots through her eye out the back of her head. And they do the shot in profile. Yeah. And it looked awesome. Yeah. For some of the faker stuff the stuff that looked more fake throughout the movie, that one just looked really good. So yeah, one of the best kill shots. Something that made me laugh out loud is the friend, the seamstress that got smacked with the iron.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember the way. I laughed at the second. It's like she, ow, ooh, ow.
Yep. When he throws the iron at her and then 20 feet away.
And then falls over.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what the hell just happened?
And she's like, she's crawling on the ground like he threw like
she was paralyzed from it. But that was after she was, staggering for 3-4 seconds.
Yeah.
It was comical.
Yeah.
But once again, if you look at it, it is Pulp Fiction horror movie, so there is going to be things that are cheesy on it.
It is beautifully shot, and that's another thing that he's known for is like the colors in his movies. And I wasn't really seeing it in this movie a lot until like further into the movie, it started like there's some scenes where you start seeing like the red being brought out and like the green lighting and like stuff like that. And again, usually I see that in movies and go, this is like, why? That's just stupid. Yeah. But for some reason I saw it in this and it just fit.
Yeah.
And again, I think that's part of the style of film. Again, I'm not schooled in Giallo or Dario Argento, and I really feel like as a horror fan, I've limited myself because I don't watch the older 60s, 70s, 80s. Well, not 80s. I do watch those, but the 60s, 70s like style like horror films and where they came from. And I'm gonna try to fix that in October because I watch only contemporary horror. That's my my wheelhouse, and that's where I like to live. But I think because of movies like what I watched today, I need to break out of that and go back and kind of find the movies that inspired the movies that I watch today. I won't do a whole month of Giallo. I would bang myself against the wall.
Yeah, that's the next marathon.
Yeah, but I will not challenge myself to that. But I will challenge myself to go back and watch the horror from years ago and try to catch up on things I have not seen there.
So, recommend, not recommend, thumbs up, thumbs down.
You know what? I'm going to say that somebody, if give it a shot.
If that's your thing.
If that's your thing and you want to watch, if you want to study up on things that people don't make today, or a certain style of film. If you're a filmmaker that wants to make a Giallo film, people like that, go watch something from Dario Argento. It doesn't have to be opera. But I didn't think the movie was bad. It was watchable. It was too long. But it wasn't bad.
I'm in that same camp with you that about the times that I said, okay, I've had enough of this, then something interesting would happen.
That's what it was, yeah.
And it pulled me back in. Yeah. And then it pulled me back in. So as opposed to keeping my devout attention the entire time, it had a way of pulling me back into it. So I agree with you. If you're a fan of Giallo, I would assume that you would like this. I don't know that I've ever seen another Giallo film before.
You do have to give this movie about 30 minutes before, don't quit. If you're going to watch it, don't quit. Give it about a half hour.
Yeah, it takes a while to get rolling.
Things start happening, and then, it'll kind of keep your attention for the most part. But if you quit 10 minutes in, there's other stuff. It's coming. You just got to give it a second.
And there's a lot of opera music in there, so if you're not an opera fan, that makes it a little more difficult.
That was the other thing that kind of bothered me was the whole movie is scored.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
Yep.
I want to know what that movie, and I remember thinking this, I'm glad you brought it up. I remember thinking, I wonder what this movie would be like if you took all the score out of it. I wonder, because there's parts in that movie where things are happening and the score took me out of it. I was like, okay, this could be a really, if there's, silence is deafening, and if you took the music out of this and just, there's a part where it goes back to the apartment, and she first lets the inspector in, and she's sitting on her bed, and you don't know if it's him or if it's not him, and there's, a nice little, zoom moment, and if there's but there's music over the whole thing, and if you're if there's no music right there, and you just you could hear a pin drop, this scene would play out completely differently. I agree with the whole. It was just scored a little too much for me.
Something I found just this last week was on YouTube, famous jump scares with the music removed.
Okay,
and it was interesting how ineffective they were.
Okay.
With the music gone. So while we're saying that, the music in this one kind of hurt it in a way just because it was scored all the way through, but, the importance of music elsewhere.
Yeah. Exactly.
So we're both saying if you're a fan, it's worth a watch.
Give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
I wish I would have. So, let's do out of 5. Let's do it out of 10.
Out of 10, I'd give it a 5.
Okay, yeah, I was 6,
4 or 5.
6, 7, yeah.
But for me, that's just because I'm not a fan of the genre.
Yep, exactly.
So. All right, cool. Excellent. Shout outs. Because we're wrapping up here. We're at about 40.
Do the Prairie Lights one first.
Sure. Prairie Lights Film Festival 2017 is October 20th through the 22nd in Grand Island, Nebraska at the Grand Theater. If you have not gotten tickets, it's just $10 for a weekend pass. That gets you all access to all of the films, to every Q&A. There's some 25% off food and drinks at different places there in Grand Island. You get some free popcorn, free DVD if you sign up by a certain time.
Yeah, and those are limited.
Those are limited. Yeah. So you want to sign up for those as soon as possible. I think that's pretty much it. There's a final tally of, I believe, 40 films,
23 world premieres.
Yeah.
So that is, it's just like one of the best times ever, too, guys. I feel like the $10 is worth, like, yeah, you go see the movies and you get 3 days of like Nebraska made films, but like the also like the talking with like the networking and talking with filmmakers and just the atmosphere. Worth that $10 alone, and then the discounts that you get at all the different places is just a lot of fun. Right. So I recommend, if you've never been, just give it a whirl. Right. It's a fun time.
Then Midnight Frights, we have one submission for the Flatwater Terrors, which is Ghost Hunter.
Yep.
Which is still being edited, but very well on its way to being completed, and I'm loving it so far. We'll see how sick of it I am by the time we get to see it on the big screen.
Will you be willing to watch it at Prairie Lights?
You know, once it gets to Prairie Lights, I'm going to really, I'll be curious to see how it looks on the big screen, because, you know, I'd see what it looks like on my, 29-inch monitor, but on the big screen, completely different. That's something I learned doing La Bites last year.
Yeah.
And then the four of us are working on another project, not through Midnight Frights. It's going to be a Crooked Codpiece production with working with Dream Awake, which is the comedy entry into Prairie Lights Film Festival called The Contest.
Yeah. Shooting that next week.
Shooting that this upcoming weekend.
Yeah. Way to rush. Way to last minute that one in there.
But editing that one's going to be so much easier than editing Ghost Hunter, because it's just two people talking. Yeah. That's it.
If you get a chance, head on over to midnightfrightfilms.com. We just had a really great meeting about all the different project ideas. We're going to challenge ourselves to start doing a short a month. So those should be dropping on the website here soon. So a ton of new content coming your way on midnightfrightfilms.com. There's cool content on there. Midnight Fright Films on Facebook, the Midnight Frightcast on Facebook. That's the plug.
That's pretty much it.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Hopefully, when we come back the next week, we'll have 4 of us here again, and with a new movie. So we'll see you then.
All right, take it easy, everyone.